So let's talk about this American-born racist that's gone across the pond and caused a very, very brilliant man to take his own life. Nathan Cofnas was born in either 1986 or 1987, believe it or not, here in America. He was born in Chicago, Illinois, and was raised Jewish and grew up in Manhattan. He developed a really large interest in hereditarianism and was 16 taking courses at Columbia University. He later earned his undergraduate degree from Columbia, then studied at Leiden University in Hong Kong. He earned his master's degree in philosophy from Cambridge and his doctorate in philosophy from Oxford. He's currently an American philosophy doctoral researcher at Ghent University in Belgium. His scientific racism is where he stands out because this advocacy has resulted in a lot of controversy over him from the UK to Belgium to basically anywhere he's gone. He's had to resign from a few fellowships like the one at the University of Cambridge, and he was fired as a research associate by the Emmanuel College after publishing a blog which argued that black people are less intelligent. And in the post he wrote that in a meritocracy, the number of black professors at Harvard University would, quote, approach 0%, end of quote. It is also at this time that he wrote a book titled Reptiles with a Conscience, the Co-Evolution of Religious and Moral Doctrine, published in 2012. He actually later withdrew the book from publication, hoping to publish it later. So then later on, in 2018, he wrote and argued in Human Nature that the evidence actually favors a simpler explanation of Jewish overrepresentation in intellectual movements involvement Jewish high intelligence and geographical distribution. His arguments in the article reflected his broader view that there is, quote, legitimate science on race difference, end of quote. And in this case, that Jews have a higher IQ score on average. Oh, okay. So shortly thereafter, in 2019, he published an article, a journal article, in the Philosophical Psychology arguing for the study of race and intelligence. Now this is what's really funny, because all this tooting of his own horn and putting Jewish people above everybody and them being smarter than everybody, guess what happened to that article? Together, 9 academics subsequently published a joint letter addressing the editors of Philosophical Psychology, stating that his paper was not even up to academic publishing standards, that it was faulty in its methodology, in part ignoring major studies that disproved his position. So basically, he's out there ignoring evidence and other scientific documents and journals and articles written by other highly qualified doctors and philosophers to put his own words out there that's going against basically mainstream knowledge and what everyone is agreed to be the facts. They also stated that his paper had, quote, racist ideological undertones, end of quote. Philosophical Psychology editor Cree von Leeuwen later resigned over the controversy. So basically, other racist professors had the sense and wherewithal to resign. So as late as February 2024, he wrote a blog post. Now just notice that he's doing a lot of blogging. None of his stuff is getting published in the academic world and journals, and when it is getting published, they're challenging it. But this is the same man that was saying that Arday was plagiarizing his doctoral studies and his entire life and drove the poor man to suicide. We have another inept American-born racist out publicly lynching a black man. So as I was stating, in February 2024, he wrote a blog post defending hereditarianism, or basically that genetics play a role in determining human behavior and character traits such as intelligence and personality. So he defended hereditarianism and advocated for scientific racism, which he termed race realism. So basically with race realism, he argued that in a meritocratic system, or a political system in which capital is assigned on the basis of competence, that black people would, quote, disappear from all high-profile positions outside of sports and entertainment. And Harvard faculty would be recruited from the best of the best students, which means the number of black professors would approach 0%. Shortly after a petition called for his firing and prompted investigations by the institutions that were all associated with him. So basically, we have another case of white racism projecting negativity onto a black life, and it resulted in that black life being gone. I posit that he is 100% responsible for this man's death, and the family should act accordingly and go after him in the courthouses. So even though the University of Cambridge didn't take any actions, he ended up resigning after the backlash. And then he was also fired from Emmanuel College because his blog amounted to, quote, a rejection of diversity, equity, and inclusion, end of quote, and definitely was inconsistent with the university's mission. So Cofnas, with the support of the Free Speech Union, did what they always do. Oh, he cried foul and ended up suing Emmanuel College in August of 2024 over his dismissal. In 2025, the Telegraph described Cofnas as, quote, one of Britain's most controversial academics, end of quote. Now, they could have called him for what he was, an incel racist, attacking black people for no reason, especially when they're proven to be much more highly intelligent than he is, because we have to note that Dr. Arday was the youngest black professor in the university's history, which, of course, that made Cofnas jealous as hell. Let's just call this what it is. He was jealous of this black man getting positions and having this job that he could never have, and therefore he did a public lynching and witch hunt after this man that resulted in his death. Cofnas is currently hired at Ghent University, where he has also faced petitioning, objecting to his views, and calls for his firing. So I think we should just go ahead and put the university's handle down below, and you guys go ahead and let them know how you feel about Mr. Cofnas. So let's speak on what happened with Arday. So in July 2026, Cofnas publicly accused University of Cambridge psychology professor Jason Arday of plagiarism in his doctoral thesis. Arday had become, in 2023, the youngest black professor in the university's history. And so, of course, on Substack, in a post, because he has no other place where people are accepting what he's talking about, because he's speaking from a position of non-authority, Cofnas wrote that he had run Arday's doctoral thesis through a plagiarism detecting software and found that, quote, many passages were lifted with minimal editing, sometimes retaining copy-edited mistakes from the original source, end of quote. He also cast doubt in some of the other claims that he had made about his life, like the man had been mute up until, I believe, the age of 11. So basically, he's using AI, which we know is faulty, to check another man's work. I call bullshit. This is... And I might add, the university went back and checked his thesis, and they didn't find any plagiarism. So after Arday resigned, that's when there was a relentless attack in the media against him for plagiarism. No other professor, student, no one else has ever went through that type of attack in the public media. The person would resign from their position, and the media would maybe have one or two articles about them more, and that's it. No. In my previous posts from yesterday, I believe in the 22 days, there was 229 articles written on Arday to discredit him as a person now. So they went from attacking his work at the college to attacking him as a person. They're all liable. There should be a lawsuit. Arday denied accusations but admitted some errors in his work. He later resigned as a result of the scandal, and then he started to receive, quote, an unrelenting level of public scrutiny and personal attack, end of quote. Shortly after this resignation and attack, he was found dead in his London home. This is horrible. There should be some type of justice for Jason Arday.
Change the world in any way, how would you change it?
I would take a thread and a needle and I'd interweave love into our society. That's what I would do. I think the absence of love in our society is absolutely palpable. I feel like the empathy we have for one another, the tolerance that we have for one another, it's completely eroded, you know, and there is so much anger in society. There's so much anger in society, and I often think, what would one replace that with? Because also, that anger has become inflicted. You know, we're not kind of driven towards one goal, we're kind of turning on one another. And so for me, the thing that I would do, if I could change the world, I would have the world, and I'd have it spinning on this axis of love. That's what I'd have, because we've lost, as a society, in my humble opinion, I think we've lost our way. And I think the last 15 years, or the last 13 years for sure, particularly in British society, has been a huge enabler of that. You know, and I think the essence of love might seem like a very underrated thing, or a very melancholic thing, but it's really important, because if I said to you, provide me examples of where you see that in our daily society, you know, if I turn on the news, apart from the kind of fun item that comes on at the end, at the moment there's so much kind of pulling us apart, and very rarely do I hear people talk about what the things we could do to bring one another together.